So, most people assume that intelligence is fixed, which is that either you are born smart or you're not. But what if intelligence is not about just IQ? What if becoming dangerously smart is less about being book smart and more about how you train your mind, align your energy, and use your consciousness? In this video, we will understand not just the practical ways to sharpen your brain, but also the metaphysics behind intelligence. How your mental state, your focus, and your energy impact on how smart you actually become or you actually are. And with that, I will also share my own experiences to give you a full perspective on what it really takes to maximize your brain power. So, first, let's break down the myth, which is that intelligence is fixed. Now, the question here is that if it really were, let's assume if it really were, then no one would ever get smarter, right? And we know that's not true. Intelligence is shaped by how we think, what we consume, and how we challenge ourselves, and most importantly, how we manage our mind, how we direct our energy. Now, the number one, and please write it down if you need to, right? Like, make notes because this information is vital. So, number one is your brain is an adaptation machine, which is that your brain rewires itself based on how you use it. This is called neuroplasticity. And it means that every time you push your mind beyond its limit, right? Maybe you're operating from here and then you push your limit, it actually changes, right? It rewires itself. But here's the thing. Most people keep reinforcing the same thought process and patterns over and over again and again. And if you're doing one particular thing, you're going to get the same result, the same damn result. If you always think in a linear, limited way, your brain strengthens those neural pathways. But if you constantly expose yourself to new ideas, challenge your own assumptions, and force yourself to think differently from what you have been conditioned to think, your brain adapts to that. Your brain tries to understand that. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells to Arjun that the person's mind can be one's greatest friend or their worst enemy. Because a weak mind is the one that stays in repetitive loops, in the same loop, while a sharp mind is the one that expands, adapts, and questions itself. Whatever belief that you have, please just question, just ask yourself, why do you even believe those things? So I have always been that person who would always question and try to learn new things, right? So until previous year, I could not read a book, right? In the sense that I would get distracted and I would just feel like, bored and stuff like that. And I was mainly reading fiction as people around me would recommend me. Then it wasn't working for me. What I just did was that I simply tried new and different genres until I found what interested me. And ever since that discovery, now I can read for longer hours. And I can read things with interest. Now, the whole point of telling you this is for you to understand that it is not necessary that if something is working for somebody else, will also work for you or vice versa. The wiser thing is to try a bunch of different things, and then decide for yourself what resonates with you from your own experience and not by somebody else's experience and taking on their limited perspective if you have to. Now, number 2, deep focus is a superpower. Now, most people mistake information consumption as intelligence. But intelligence is not about how much you consume, rather, it's about how deeply you can focus on something. Your ability to focus determines how well you absorb, process, and connect ideas. One of the most dangerous things today is shallow attention, which is that constantly switching between tasks, scrolling endlessly, and never sitting with a singular thought for it to marinate and maybe transform into wisdom. However, do not mistake it for not having a good attention span. Right? It does not mean that you don't have a good attention span, because you can scroll through your FYP for hours and hours. And the only thing is, your focus or attention is not where it should be, which is on you. You can focus on things. You are focusing on your FYP. So the problem is not that you don't have a good attention span. It's just that it is not on you. Monks and philosophers throughout the history have known this. Another instance from Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna speaks about the yogi's ability to concentrate on the divine, saying that when the mind is steady and undistracted, higher knowledge flows effortlessly. And that is exactly what happens when you train your mind, when you train for your mind to focus, and your brain literally starts making deeper and more meaningful connections, because wherever the attention goes, energy flows. Your attention is everything. The real question is now, how do you actually train focus? The number one thing that has been helping me is deep work, right? And different things can work for different person. I'm just sharing my perspective here, right? So the thing that has been helping me is deep work, wherein I set a dedicated time for a task, and in that time, no distractions, no notifications, nothing. I will ignore everything up until I have set the time limit for that task. And once I have done that, I have achieved that, whatever I could have done in that timeline, I would just do that. Now, I need you to understand this, that your reality mirrors your mental state, your inner world, right? Your 3D world is a reflection of your inner world. If you live in a distracted state, your external world will reflect chaos. If you cultivate focus, attention to the task that needs to be done, to your inner world, you focus on that, your life becomes sharper, more intentional. Alright, now number 3, the way you use your energy matters a lot than you can think of. Here's something that you should know, right? Intelligence is a game of energy. I'll say it again. Intelligence is a game of energy. A scattered, exhausted mind cannot function at its peak, no matter how much knowledge you feed it. And this is where the concept of ojas comes in, which is a principle in Ayurveda which is a yogic philosophy. The thing is, it's just that Ojas is the refined energy that fuels higher intelligence, deep thinking, and wisdom. And that is why great thinkers throughout the history had disciplined routines around their sleep, diet, and habits, right? They protected their mental energy. Now, I'm not asking you to, just change your life and schedule right then and there, but take smaller steps, right? Take smaller steps. And a more practical approach to protect your mental energy or OJS is number one is sleep. Sleep is not just rest, it's when your mind, your brain consolidates information. So you want to have like a good quality sleep. Number two, food. Your brain thrives on whole, high energy foods. So consume with intention and know what you're eating. Number three, which is mindful stimulation. Junk information is like junk food for your brain. Be conscious of what you consume. Do not just consume anything, right? Because it shapes how we think. Discard anything. Literally, I'm telling you, discard anything and everything that does not align with your vision. Verbally discard it. Verbally say, I do not accept this. Okay? Because you do not need to accept anything which you do not agree with and which does not serve you. Simply say no to it. Number four, the law of vibration and intelligence. So, intelligence is not just knowledge, the book knowledge. It's about the frequency at which you operate. The law of vibration states that everything in the universe, including our thoughts, our emotions, and mainly our emotions, they operate also on frequency because everything is energy. Now, a dull, sluggish mind operates at a lower frequency, while a sharp, insightful mind vibrates at a much higher frequency. This is why most inspiration strikes when your mind is clear, present, and elevated. It is also why certain people seem to come up with brilliant ideas effortlessly because they have trained themselves to exist on a higher frequency where they are calm, chilled, and not stressing about anything. And that is where deeper insights flow very, very easily. Now, in order to raise your intellectual frequency, you need to engage with high level ideas and ideas that serve you. Ideas that serve you. Read books that challenge you, not just entertain you. Surround yourself with sharper minds. Your environment shapes your vibration. And I cannot stress on this enough. Practice mindfulness. A scattered mind lowers frequency. A present mind sharpens it. Right? So, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjun that those who operate from a higher wisdom or try to push their limits are beyond the pull of lower distractions. Again, your older frequency and your newer frequency, or the one that you're trying to achieve. The same applies to intelligence. Higher mental states naturally access deeper truths. So, before I embarked on this journey of understanding the metaphysical concepts around life, right? My way of looking at things then and the way and how I look at things now has changed so drastically. Like, it is unbelievable. The thing is, whatever you do, right? Whatever you do, maybe listening to a song, watching a movie, sightseeing, traveling, etc., etc. Whatever you indulge into, you're not just doing that thing. You're not just watching that thing. You are also getting in touch with your consciousness. And how you are doing that is that what is your experience with a certain thing is only and only yours. All I mean to say is that choose your own lens to look at things and not take a used lens with preconceived notions, and you will realize how different life is for everyone, how different one's reality to another. And number 5, knowledge without application is useless. So intelligence is not just about how much you know, it's about what you actually do with it. The sharpest mind don't just collect information, they apply it. Now, metaphysically speaking, this ties into the law of cause and effect. If you just hold knowledge but never use it, right? Never share it, you get stuck in a loop of consumption with no real output. But when you act on it, act on what you've learned, you reinforce those neural pathways, turning knowledge into wisdom, turning what was in your head into reality. So you need to act as well. So one of the ways that work for me is teaching or sharing what I've learned. Teaching basically forces your brain to process the information or whatever it is. It processes it to deeply focus on it, and then you can also just literally write in your journal or share it with a friend, and that also does the job. Experiment with ideas. Don't just read about this, that, intelligence is that, whatever, but practice new ways of thinking. Try to look upon one thing through different lenses. Another thing is that kind of works for me is reflecting and journaling or discussing the concepts, and that also helps me integrate them into my consciousness. Now, when I'm discussing it with my friends and people I like to discuss things with, we actually also, come up with concepts on our own that can actually help us. So you can also do that. Sharing. Becoming dangerously smart is not about being a born genius. It's about how you train your brain, manage your energy, and align your mental state. Intelligence is a combination of deep focus of your frequency of your thinking and the ability to apply that knowledge in a way that actually transforms your reality. So you have to work across the different planes of existence, which is the spiritual, mental, and this physical, spiritual, and mental state. Yeah. You have to work across the planes. Because at the end of the day, you can be anything that you put your mind to. Okay? And when you see intelligence this way, that is not just about IQ, it's about mastering over your own mind and sharpen your mind. The sharper and easier your life becomes. And please leave your insights from this video in the comments below. And with that, I will see you in the next video.